2025-115.
Council Bill 2025-115, a special ordinance authorizing the city of Springfield, Missouri to enter into an agreement with David Cameron for the purpose of employing him as city manager, authorizing payment of salary and benefits in accordance with the provisions of said agreement, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same by and on behalf of the city of Springfield.
So just to bring everybody up to speed, this bill was made public on Wednesday, May 14, as part of a press release of the agenda of the May 19 City Council meeting. This followed a news release and press conference held earlier that same morning here in the Bush Building. The city's news release said that the City Council vote on the bill would be Tuesday, May 27. The date in the news release was initially an error for which the Public Information Office apologized. Nonetheless, that date was relayed to the public by both the news release and the media, May 27. I caught the error in the news release later in the day of May 14 and began examining the upcoming City Council schedule. On the next day, Thursday, May 15, I informed Council of the error and that I was considering holding the vote on May 27 due to the vote being time sensitive. On the next day, Friday, May 16, I informed Council by email of my decision to hold the vote on May 27 at Council lunch and to invite Council comments at the May 19 Council meeting after public comments had concluded. Here I should note that the 2025 City Council meeting schedule, which was established in 2024, skips June 2 and sets the next City Council meeting 3 weeks after May 19 on Monday, June 9, not 2 weeks after May 19. We will not have a full council present on June 9. The next council meeting after June 9 is Monday, June 23, only 2 weeks prior to the start date outlined in Council Bill 2025-115. I do not think there is enough time between the official vote and the start date. Therefore, I have deemed the vote to be time sensitive. Public comment on this bill was heard on May 19. Council comments were also heard on May 19. I now open the floor for additional comments from council, if any. Councilman Hosmer.
Mr. Mayor, in a moment, I'm going to be moving that we table Council Bill 2025-115 to June, either June 9th or June 23rd, to the regular meeting of the City Council. This bill was, as the mayor said, this bill was first read on May 19th, 2025. Every other bill that we considered that day as first reading is on the calendar for June 9, 2025. That is our regular City Council meeting. There's a reason we have regular City Council meetings and we don't at City Council lunch meetings, because this building is ill-equipped to handle public presence. I'd like to know why we're fast tracking this bill. It's not an emergency. It's not time sensitive. And nothing in the contract requires us to have the bill input done before the start date of July 7. We've got 2 council meetings before the start date of July 7. In the past 12 years that I've been on council, we've used special City Council meetings sparingly to pass substantive legislation. This is probably the most consequential vote that this council and this community will have. And I think it's important that we do it in our normal public process. We typically do bills in this room at special meetings that are emergency bills, that are ballot issues, that are grants that we have to accept early, that are truly time sensitive. This is not one of those. This is a departure from the precedent that the City Council has operated under for at least the 12 years that I've been on council. This, again, is not a normal City Council meeting where the public can attend, can listen, can watch, can even find out what happens. We've been very deliberate in our process so far in this candidate selection. We have consistently, as a council, said we're not going to rush the process. So the question I have today is, why are we rushing the process now? If anyone can tell me why it's so important to fast track the bill and to deviate from our normal process, please let me know. But to manipulate our process to get a vote earlier for some unknown reason is not conducive to good public policy. Just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should do it. Our process is built to allow maximum public transparency and maximum public input. Regular city council meetings at night, when most people can attend, can listen, can participate, is a promise that we make as a council that we should follow. A lunch meeting is not a regular city council meeting. Again, this vote will be one of the most consequential votes that this council makes. It's probably one of the first major votes that this council makes. And there's a rule, Abe will know about it, but the attorneys call primacy. People remember what the first thing that you do. The public will remember this vote today, whether we do it in a normal process or whether we do it in a special process that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The selection of the next city manager for the whole city of Springfield is an important issue, and it's important that we follow the regular process for this vote. To have this vote at a special city council meeting rather than a regular city council meeting is wrong, and it's a mistake. We as a council do things fast. I've often said we often do things wrong. The manipulation of the normal process for this bill and for this city manager is a mistake. It's a mistake because it will be remembered as the first real action of this new council, an action to lessen public input and lessen public transparency. It's a mistake because it sets up a dangerous and destructive precedent where we select different dates to conduct city business, which diminishes the public participation and consistency. It's a mistake because it fosters public mistrust in council and our process. And finally, probably most importantly, it's a mistake because it creates an unnecessary cloud of suspicion over this contract and over this city manager. Mr. Mayor, for all the above reasons, I move that Council Bill 2025-115 be tabled to the June 23rd meeting of the regular council.
I second the
We have a
motion.
motion on the table to council, and there is a second. So discussion moves now from the bill at hand, which is 2025-115, to the motion to table. Is there any discussion about the motion to table?
I have a question.
Mr. DiBiase.
My understanding that maybe we won't have a full council group on June 9th. Is there not any provisions for either remote participation or proxy voting for that kind of thing? No? This is all new to
Proxy
me.
voting, we don't
We
have.
don't do proxied. I believe we have allowed video conference.
Video conferencing. Okay, thank you.
Other comments of council? Jensen.
A question of our HR director, Ms. Morrison, if you don't mind. Can you detail the work that the city would need to do after council approves the contract, but prior to the official start date for the city manager? What steps will need to be completed?
We would move into, if that was approved, we would move into an actual onboarding process. And we would have time, to do that. Is that what your question is?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand if it was tabled until June 23rd, would there be sufficient time for staff to do all the work that needs to happen prior to the start date of July 7th?
We would make it work.
Would it be a burden? Like what, realistically, like within how the city typically operates, would there be any challenges with that?
I don't know that there would be any challenges. It would just be between scheduling issues. I'm confident we could work that out.
Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing none, we will vote on the motion to table. Clerk will read the roll.
McGall,
No.
Orton,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Hardinger. No. Carroll,
No.
Lee,
No.
Adib Yazdi,
Yes.
Hosmer,
Aye.
and Schrag.
No. Motion fails. We will now move back into any further comment of members of council on the actual ordinance, Council Bill 2025-115. Yes, Councilmember Hosmer, additional comments.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to be voting against the Council Bill 2025-115 for a number of reasons. First is the process that I tried to define in my motion to table. We are rushing this process. We are setting a dangerous precedent that will be remembered, and next time the shoe may be on the other foot, and I still think the process is destructive. It's not good. It's not good to do the public's business at special council meetings. I also believe that the contract is flawed. This is a contract where we're paying a city manager $350,000 a year, the highest paid city manager in the state of Missouri, I believe. We're giving a city manager 9 months severance pay, which is higher than we gave Jason Gage, and also higher salary. As most of you know, I voted against the termination package for for Manager Gage because we paid him over $400,000 to leave the city of Springfield. Not to work for the city of Springfield, to leave the city of Springfield. A 9-month severance package is $262,000 plus to leave the city of Springfield. That's not working for the city of Springfield, that's leaving the city of Springfield. We often hear that people want us to run city government like a business. What business would pay somebody $262,000 to leave the city of Springfield? What business would pay somebody $400,000 to leave the city of Springfield? That is a misuse of citizen taxpayer dollars. We also promised ourselves that $350,000 salary was going to attract someone from a big city that's dealt with the big city problems that the city of Springfield faces. Instead, we're going 6 miles away to a city that's 1/10 the size of the city of Springfield. And that's not a criticism of Mr. Cameron, but he hasn't dealt with the big issues that we have to deal with. To get the issue right on development is a relatively easy solution. But to get the issues right on poverty, on homelessness, on mental health, on drug and alcohol, on crime, those are hard. You need a city manager that's got experience on those issues, because those are the issues that are going to impact Springfield more than whether or not we're open for business. We all promised ourselves early on in this process that we were going to get the right person to lead this city. We had the luxury of having Colin and Maurice here because they can run. They know how to run this city. We weren't in a hurry, and we shouldn't have been in a hurry. And frankly, we should have scrapped this process and gone to another search and got the right person to deal with the problems that the city of Springfield faces. You know, in a city that has 20% poverty, to pay someone $350,000 a year is problematic in my opinion. As other people have said, and I agreed with what Councilwoman Horton said, I agree with what Councilwoman Jensen said. I will pledge, if this council chooses to make David Cameron our manager, I pledge to work with him to make him as successful as possible. But I caution city council and I caution the city manager to understand that Springfield is not Republican. Springfield has different issues than Republic. That he'll be judged, at least by me, not just because he makes the Chamber of Commerce happy. He'll be judged by what he does to changing our definition of what economic development means. Economic development should be a bigger picture than just another development building going up easier in the city of Springfield. It should be safe neighborhoods. It should be clean neighborhoods. It should be intact neighborhoods. It should be quality of place where people can rest assured that their home is going to be protected from a development next door. It means having exceptional public services, public parks, and public employees. And it means effectively and efficiently dealing with the problems that we face, whether it's homelessness, whether it's housing shortage, whether it's poverty. We've made small strides in improving our rate of poverty. But if you look at what Republic's done, and again, this is not necessarily an issue with Mr. Cameron, and it's also council, but they started with 15% poverty. They've still got 15% poverty in the city of Republic. So again, I pledge, as most of us will, to work with the new city manager. But I hope that he uses his disruptive leadership to address these chronic issues that the city of Springfield faces. Because to me, they mean more about what our future economic development, what our future plan is, than being open for business. Because if you don't have safe cities, if you don't have clean cities, if you don't have good neighborhoods, business isn't going to come to Springfield. That's what causes people to come to Springfield, not because we're open for business. A lot of cities are open for business and nobody develops there. People want to develop where things are going well. I hope that we all share the same goals. I know that sometimes how you get to that goal is different. And I understand that I'm not always right. Nobody else is always right either. And neither is a city manager always right. I hope that we work together and realize that making Springfield better means making it better for everybody. And making economic conditions better in Springfield means making it better for everybody. So again, I will be voting against the bill, but I hope to be supportive of the city manager if it is council's choice to select David Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Hosmer. Councilmember Horton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that I figured that we would have a latent response from the public. We did have a latent response from the public. Over the last 3 days even, we've had over 70. I know I've received over 70 pieces of feedback, emails, phone calls, and face-to-face from the public. And I feel as though that particular set of information to City Council is something that we need to take into consideration. What I've heard over the past 3 days in terms of just summing up is that, number one, they wanted us to table. That failed. And number two, they certainly wanted us to start this search over for reasons that in the previous council meeting, Councilman Jensen, he went over a whole litany of issues, and for the reasons that Councilman Hosmer is laying out today. And so, to the extent that that matters, that we have a latent response from our public, but also the feedback that we have received from the staff in terms of the lowest ratings of the candidate of the simple majority. It's one of those things where my vote is not against this candidate. It's a no vote for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Adib Yazdi?
Yeah, without repeating a lot of what Mr. Hosmer's comments were, which I agree with, there's a couple of other items I'd like to add, which were, first, thanks for everybody that did contribute over the last few days. As you point out, we've had a lot of correspondence over the last few days, and I'm glad to see everybody participating in that process. I have a lot of people in the emails, but also a lot of folks reach out directly, and I appreciate that. In the words of the former mayor and councilman at one of our last meetings, they mentioned to us not to settle. And I feel like we're sort of in a position where, in this case, we may be settling. It seems like the salary and the search we did yield us to a point where each of the three candidates had a strength and each one sort of had a risk as well. And I feel like we're in that position. We are voting today on a contract, and there are a couple of components of the contract I don't completely agree with, but understand that if we end up with a majority vote, I'm also on board with supporting him in the best way we can. In full disclosure, I did ask for a one-on-one meeting with Mr. Cameron, and I had one last week, and it was a great conversation. I have hope that his wisdom and his learning over the last couple of decades has maybe taught him that he doesn't treat everything he does in the same way. And hopefully he'll be able to see that Springfield is not Republican. And I feel like I at least got that little glimmer of hope in that conversation. And it was part of my conversation at the last council meeting. At some point, I'm going to hope for the best here. However, I will also be voting no on this. I also agree we should have started over, and hopefully, a no vote today is not, again, necessarily so hard against Mr. Cameron, but I really wish we could have done that process over. However, if approved today through a majority vote, I do commit to work with my fellow council members to generate specific priorities and be guardrails for his role that will help us move our city forward while preserving the good that we've already done and are planning for. I feel really confident that we have a lot to look forward to. I feel like some of his strengths are things that we could use as long as we can harness them and put them on the right track. I feel like there's could be some positive things happen. So I do have a vision for our city in terms of preservation and incremental growth of our neighborhood, as well as growing our downtown and commercial corridors. I really feel like growing up instead of out is what I've said all along, and I feel like with some of his strengths, we might be able to move that needle. So with that, I appreciate the time this morning.
Are there other additional comments from council? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Excuse me. Horton,
No.
Jensen,
No.
Hardinger. Aye. Carroll.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Adib Yazdi.
Nay.
Hosmer.
No.
McGull.
Yes.
Schrag.
Aye. Motion passes. Council Bill 2025-115 is approved. We will move to the next item on the agenda.